The sound of shattering crystal cut through the low hum of jazz like a gunshot. Elena stared down at the jagged shards of the highball glass she had just dropped, her hands trembling so violently she couldn't even make a fist. The whiskey she had been pouring pooled on the mahogany counter, the sharp, peat-heavy scent hitting her nose and instantly turning her stomach. She gagged, clapping a hand over her mouth, and stumbled back against the shelves of expensive liquor bottles, the glass clinking ominously behind her. Elena, get it together." The bar manager's voice hissed on the shadows, but it sounded miles away. All Elena could hear was the rushing of blood in her ears and the phantom echo of a voice she had tried to scrub from her memory for 14 sleepless nights. Before we unravel the secret Elena is hiding and the man who destroyed her, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You aren't going to want to miss a single beat of this story. Like the video now if you're ready for the drama. "I'm sorry," Elena whispered, her voice cracking. She grabbed a rag, dropping to her knees to clean the mess, indifferent to the shards slicing into her skin. "I'm sorry. I slipped." "You've been slipping for 2 weeks, Elle," a softer voice said above her. Sarah, her best friend and the only person at the Velvet Room who knew the truth. Sarah crouched down, her hand gripping Elena's shoulder with fierce protection. "Go to the bag. Breathe. I'll cover the bar. If he sees you like this—" "He won't see me," Elena snapped, though the fear in her eyes betrayed her. "He hasn't been here in 2 weeks. He's done with his experiment." The word tasted like ash. Experiment. As she scrubbed the sticky alcohol from the floor, the memory assaulted her, dragging her back to the Starlight Hotel. It had been raining that night, too. She remembered the cold press of the air conditioning against her bare skin, the feeling of absolute bliss as she lay in the tangled sheets, watching Julian button his crisp white shirt. She had been in love. God, she had been so foolishly, blindly in love. She had thought the way he held her meant forever. She had thought the way he whispered her name meant she was safe. Then he had turned around. It wasn't the Julian who had courted her for 3 months at the bar. The warmth was gone. His face was a mask of granite, his eyes dead and hollow. "You can get dressed now, Elena," he had said, checking his watch as if checking a train schedule. "The test is concluded." Elena had sat up, pulling the sheet to her chest, a nervous laugh bubbling up. "What? Julian, what are you talking about?" "This," he gestured vaguely, "between us. I needed to know if I could go through with it, if I could perform with the woman. My father is pressuring me for heirs, but as it turns out, the biology doesn't work for me. The revulsion is too high." Elena had frozen, the blood draining from her face. "Revulsion? Julian, 5 minutes ago you said you loved me." "I said what was required to get the data. I am gay, Elena. I have been engaged to Adrian for 6 months. This, us, was a necessary charade to see if I could stomach a traditional marriage. I cannot." He turned back to her, reaching into his wallet and tossing a stack of cash on the nightstand. It landed with a soft thud that echoed louder than a scream. "For your time. Don't come back to the table when I'm there. It would be awkward for Adrian." The memory was so vivid that Elena nearly retched again on the taproom floor. She squeezed her eyes shut, fighting the wave of nausea that had nothing to do with the broken glass and everything to do with the secret she had discovered this morning. 2 pink lines. She was pregnant. Pregnant by a man who found her repulsive. Pregnant by a man who was marrying another man. "El, get up," Sarah whispered urgently, her nails digging into Elena's arm. "You have to get up. Now." "I can't," Elena choked out. "I'm quitting. I'm leaving tonight. I can't be here." You can't quit yet. We need the tips, Sarah hissed, pulling Elena to her feet just as the heavy oak doors of the lounge swing open. The atmosphere in the velvet room changed instantly. The air grew heavier, charged with a static electricity that made the hair on Elena's arms stand up. It was him. Julian walked in out of the rain, shaking a black umbrella. He looked devastatingly handsome in a charcoal suit, but he looked wrong. His cheekbones were sharper than Elena remembered. There were dark, violet bruises of exhaustion under his eyes, and his jaw was set so tight a muscle ticked rhythmically beneath the skin. Beside him walked Adrian, tall, blonde, and elegantly bored, the fiancé, the real partner. Adrian scanned the room with a look of mild disdain, checking his phone before saying something to Julian that made Julian flinch. Table 4, the manager signaled to Sarah. VIPs. I'll take them, Sarah said quickly, stepping in front of Elena. Elena, you stay here. Hide behind the taps. No, the manager barked. Sarah, you're on the floor for the party in the back. Elena, take table 4. They specifically asked for the house special mixologist. Go. Elena felt her knees buckle. I can't. Do you want your job or not? The manager threatened. Elena looked at Sarah, who looked ready to fight the manager, but Elena shook her head. She placed a hand over her flat stomach. She needed health insurance. She needed the money. She took a deep, shuddering breath, smoothed her black dress, and grabbed her tray. I'll do it. She walked across the lounge floor, every step feeling like she was walking to the gallows. She focused on the table, refusing to look at their faces. As she approached, she heard Adrian's voice. You look like a corpse, Julian. Sit down before you fall down. Shut up, Adrian. Julian's voice was a low growl, rougher than usual. Is she here? She's walking towards us right now. Try not to destroy her life again in the next 5 minutes, strictly for efficiency's sake. Elena stopped at the edge of the table. Her heart was hammering against her ribs so hard she was sure they could hear it. She forced her professional mask into place, though she knew her eyes were glassy. Good evening, gentlemen, she said, her voice devoid of emotion. What can I get you? Julian's head snapped up. For a second, the mask slipped. His eyes widened, raking over her face with the hunger that looked terrifyingly like desperation. He took in her pale skin, the way her collarbones protruded more than before, the slight tremor in her hand holding the tray. He looked like he wanted to reach out and grab her. Then, just as quickly, the ice returned. He looked away, focusing on the candle in the center of the table. Scotch. Neat. Leave the bottle, Julian muttered. And for you? Elena asked, turning to Adrian. Adrian looked up at her. He didn't look malicious. He looked curious. He studied her face, then glanced at Julian, then back at her. I'll have a gin and tonic. And water for him. He hasn't slept or eaten in 3 days, apparently. I said I want scotch, Julian snapped. And I said you need water because we have a merger meeting at 8 a.m. and you look like you're going to die. Adrian retorted, sounding more like a tired babysitter than a lover. He looked back at Elena. Water and the gin, thank you, Elena. He used her name. Julian hadn't used her name. Right away, Elena said, turning on her heel. She made it back to the bar and gripped the edge of the sink, dry heaving. Did he say anything? Sarah appeared beside her, loading a tray with beers. He wouldn't look at me, Elena said, her voice trembling. He ordered a bottle of scotch. He looks sick, Sarah. Good. Sarah spat. I hope he rots. He asked if I was here, Elena whispered, the confusion warring with the pain. Before I got to the table, I heard him ask Adrian if I was here. Probably to make sure he could avoid you, Sarah said, though her expression softened. Look, ignore them. Focus on the money. Just 2 more hours, Elle. Then we go home, we eat ice cream, and we figure out the baby stuff. I'm with you. We're doing this together. I don't know if I can do this alone, Sarah, Elena confessed, a tear finally escaping. I'm terrified. You aren't alone. Sarah squeezed her hand. Now, give me that gin. I'll run it over. You serve Mr. Henderson at the end of the bar. He's been waving his credit card for 5 minutes. Elena nodded, wiping her face. She looked down the bar. Mr. Henderson, a regular, a corporate banker who tipped well but had wandering hands. Usually she could handle him with a sharp look and a joke. Tonight she felt too brittle to handle anything. She poured the scotch for Julian's table and set it on Sarah's tray, then moved toward Mr. Henderson. Finally, the man boomed, his face flushed with drink. He slapped his hand on the counter. I thought you were ignoring me, sweetheart. I was starting to get lonely. Just busy, Mr. Henderson, Elena said quietly. The usual? Double. He slurred, leaning over the bar. His breath smelled of stale onions and expensive vodka. And a smile. You look like someone kicked your puppy. Come on, give us a smile. Here's your drink. Elena placed the glass down and tried to step away. Hey. Henderson's hand shot out, grabbing her wrist. His grip was wet and tight. I'm talking to you. Don't walk away when I'm talking to you. That's rude. Elena froze. The sensation of being trapped, of a man touching her without permission, triggered something primal in her current state. Let go of me, please. Not until you smile, Henderson sneered, pulling her closer. I pay your salary with my tips, girlie. You can at least look happy about it. Sir, let go. Elena's voice rose, panic setting in. She tried to pry his fingers off, but he was strong. From the corner of her eye, she saw movement at table 4, a shadow rising, fast. I said let go, Elena cried out, twisting her arm. You little... Henderson raised his other hand, whether to grab her other arm or strike her, she didn't know. But he never got the chance. A blur of charcoal gray slammed into the bar. A hand, large and elegant, clamped over Henderson's wrist, the one holding Elena, and squeezed. You said. A voice low and terrifyingly calm rumbled. You said to let go. It was Julian, but not the cold, indifferent businessman from the hotel. This was a man possessed. His eyes were black with rage, his teeth bared in a snarl that was almost feral. He squeezed harder, and Henderson yelped, his fingers springing open, releasing Elena. Julian, Elena breathed, clutching her bruised wrist to her chest. Julian didn't look at her. He kept his gaze locked on the drunk man, twisting Henderson's arm back until the man whimpered. If you ever... Julian whispered, the sound carrying more threat than a scream. Touch her again, I will buy this building just to ban you from it. And then I will ruin you. Do you understand? Okay, man, chill. I was just playing. Henderson stammered, shrinking back. Julian shoved him, hard. The man stumbled off his stool, nearly falling, and scrambled toward the exit without looking back. He pushed the door open. The room was dim, lit only by the monitors. Elena looked small in the hospital bed, the white sheets swallowing her frame. An IV line ran into her arm. Her eyes were fluttery, adjusting to the light. She turned her head and saw him. The reaction was immediate. She didn't smile. She flinched. She tried to scramble backward, pushing herself up against the pillows, her eyes wide with fear. No, she rasped, her voice dry. No, get out, please. I can't I can't do another test. Just leave me alone. The sight of her fear broke him completely. Julian crossed the room in 2 strides, but instead of towering over her, he fell to his knees beside the bed. He grabbed the railing, looking up at her with eyes that were red-rimmed and pleading. Elena, stop. It's not a test, he begged. Please, just listen to me. Why are you here? She cried, tears spilling over. Go to Adrian. Go to your fiancé. You said I was a mistake. You said you were gay. Why are you torturing me? Because I lied, Julian shouted, the confession tearing out of his throat. Silence slammed into the room. The only sound was the rhythmic beeping of the heart monitor, which had sped up to match Elena's racing heart. Elena stared at him, her chest heaving. What? I lied, Julian repeated, his voice dropping to a desperate whisper. He reached out, taking her hand. She tried to pull away, but he held on, not forcefully, but like a lifeline. I'm not gay, Elena. I never was. And the engagement to Adrian, it's fake. It's a contract, a business deal. I don't believe you. Elena shook her head, though her resistance was weakening. You were so cold. You looked at me like I was nothing. I had to. Julian pressed his forehead against her hand, his shoulders shaking. Do you know who my father is? Do you know who Adrian's father is? They are monsters, Elena. Sharks. We are in the middle of a hostile takeover that involves billions of dollars and people who don't hesitate to remove obstacles. If they knew I loved you, if they knew you were my weakness, they would have used you. They would have hurt you to get to me. Elena went still. She looked down at the man kneeling by her bed, the powerful, arrogant Julian Vance reduced to a trembling mess. You loved me? Julian looked up, and the intensity in his gaze scorched her. I have loved you since the moment you poured me that first scotch 3 months ago. I loved you so much it terrified me. And when I saw the security report, when I saw my father's men were tracking my movements, I knew I had to cut you loose. I had to make you hate me. It was the only way to make sure you stayed far away from the blast zone. I know. Julian nodded quickly. I don't expect you to. I'll wait. I'll work for it. But Elena took a deep breath. I don't want to be alone. And I don't want our baby to be alone. Julian's face lit up with hope so bright it was blinding. You won't be. Never again. Okay, she whispered. Okay, Julian. I'll come with you. Julian let out a breath and buried his face in the mattress, his shoulders shaking with relief. Adrian clapped him on the back, a rare smile gracing his lips. Well, that's settled, Adrian said, turning to Sarah. Now that the Romeo and Juliet tragedy is on pause, I could use a coffee. The cafeteria here is terrible, but there's a diner across the street. Care to join me? I promise not to propose a fake marriage. Sarah blinked, looking at the handsome billionaire who had just admitted to being a fraud. She looked at his genuine smile, the lack of arrogance.